I wish I was recording that, but I wasn't. Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back here with my brother Nathan, and today we're going to go through how to balance a crankshaft for an LS engine, or for, I guess, a 90-degree V8 engine would be the correct term. But so we have all of our connecting rods here. We have our pistons. Hello. Pistons. Wrist pins are in the pistons, and then I've got the locks. Here they are. Here are the pin locks. And then we also have our rings, and we have our rod bearings. The purpose of balancing is to match the crankshaft's counterweights, which are these hunks of metals hanging off the side. And we're gonna match the counterweight to the weight of these components. So we have our piston and the wrist pin, the piston rings, the wrist pin locks. We have the small end of the connecting rod, which is considered the midway point and up. This is the small end. And then we also have the big end, which is this point and down. And then we also have the bearing, and then we make up basically an arbitrary number for how much oil do we think is going to be literally on the components as they churn through the engine. And you'll notice that I have the big end and the bearing twice, and that is because for each counterweight, we'll have 2 bearings on the connecting rod throw and 2 big ends. So we'll add all these numbers up really quick, and we'll start measuring for the numbers, and we'll see what our bob weight turns out to be. Okay, so modern pistons are all weight matched in sets, so it's extremely safe to assume that all 8 pistons are going to weigh exactly the same. So our first number is going to be the piston and the wrist pin, which we have here. And it looks like we have 609 grams. Okay, next we have our piston rings, and this is basically one piston set. So I have my oil spring, the 2 oil scrapers, and then I have my first and second ring, and then I have 1 piston's worth of wrist pin locks. So we'll weigh all of that, and we get 36 grams. To measure the connecting rod small end, I have this little contraption where the small end will hang itself on this part of the scale. Let me zero it out. Okay, I'll check it. And so we know the small end of our connecting rod is 190 grams. And then I will weigh the whole rod by itself. 30. And we have 644 grams, and I'll subtract the small end weight from this number to get my big end weight. So 644 grams minus 190 grams is 454. So we'll write that number down twice. And then we'll get our rod bearings out. And we're gonna weigh 2 sets of them, which gives us 74 grams. And then for oil, I'm gonna add 5 grams because it's a small block. So our total bob weight is 1,822 grams. So next, these are what the bob weights are. And we're going to adjust and put weights and washers on these ends until we get our bob weight total to be 1,822. Day 2 of balancing the crankshaft. I'm here with my buddy Trevor, and we've got the TIG welder out. I was able to actually remove enough material from the back side of the crank fillet on the front, and then I just had to kiss it a couple times right here. But then on the back, because of the reluctor wheel and everything, I can't get in here to grind on it. So we're gonna fill up some of these holes and add some weight to the crankshaft. So we went ahead and welded up some of the very shallow holes. These were only maybe an 1/8 to 1/4 inch deep. Next, we'll spin the crank back over, let the computer rebalance it, and then we'll see how close we are up top. After welding in these 4 holes and a little bit in this back one, I've got it to where I need to now remove 10 grams right about there, which is right in the meat of the whole counterweight. And then on the front, I've got 2 3/4 that needs to get pulled out, also where the factory hole was. The other thing I can do also is put 5 gram holes here and here.
Use a smaller pit.
Try and hit it in the middle.
No, I'll go on both sides of it. Instead of pulling out just 10 grams right here, I can split it into 2 holes and pull out 5 grams on either side of it. That'll work, Captain.
Look at that.
It's gonna walk off the edge though. Yeah, like this stuff that's like butter.
Much better than Trevor's pillar rod.
All right, let's spin it there and see where we're at.
Did you clean all the shit off of it?
Oh, well, that's cleaning it. Just put it in the ocean.
It's clean now.
All right, look at that, 4 grams. Wow, we're so good.
Look at that.
So I need to pull out 4. It's moving. So right now the weight is moving to the edge. So I'm going to counteract it and already go all the way to the edge. And that way we'll spin it back over.
All right, so what are you doing right now, Jacob?
Right now I'm checking the center on our chuck here, or our little sensor, to make sure we're getting an accurate reading. It looks, I think it got bumped somehow when we were welding it. So I usually try to get it within about 5 thou. The magnet sensor itself isn't even that concentric, so if we're within 5 thou.
Pretty much there.
Oh, you're so close.
Very good.
Oh look, Nathan.
Hey, look at that.
You 5-liter boys. No, look, 302.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty cool.
not at all.
Pretty hard to make power, but you know.
I am also part of the 5-liter game.
Oh, that's right.
Good job, Trevor.
All right, 2.88 in the back. And look, because I pushed it back over, we're directly over one of our pre-started holes. So we'll just bore that dude out a little bit. My cobalt drill bit. Because overkill is the only kill. Boom. And then in the front, we've got 2.9 grams. Right about there. And that one I can just put right down the middle.
Jacob, if you're a fan of the 460,
460 Ford?
yeah.
No.
Piece of shit or what?
Dump truck motor. The whole FE big block families are
Not very good.
just compared to the other big blocks that are out there. They're like the oiling systems are too galley. The valve train sucks. All right, so now we're at the point where we're just chasing decimal points of weight. So
It looks like we're 1.6 grams off in the front, 2.24 in the back.
yeah, so we'll go ahead and just kiss this hole. And I mean just kiss it. And then we'll come back to the rear of the crankshaft. And the closer you get to 0, you'll just start chasing the number over the crank. So on this one, I'm gonna go back to this hole, I think. Just a little bit of pressure. Alright, so yeah.
So we're at
1.37 in the front, 2.17 in the back. Okay, let me kiss this hole a little bit, which is way off center. Let's do this one instead. And then we'll come back and do this one again. The spec we're already at would be sufficient for like an 8,000-ish RPM engine. So
we're good.
we're so far, yeah, we're under 2 grams now.
Yeah. Math.
I would put this in my own engine if it was a full-on race car. So crankshaft is balanced. We'll tear it apart, take the bob weights off of it. I'll teach Nathan how to polish it really quick, and we can go on to get this engine assembled.
All right, too easy.
Someone left this thing torqued. Look at the inside piece.
And so with this torque wrench, you want to focus on a gentle, smooth, controlled pull. So we'll slowly pull it in. To 80 degrees. Alright. And we'll do yours to 51. Let's take all these bolts back off.
Take
And we
them out.
will clean the cylinder bores and then install the crankshafts. So now we're going to set the thrust bearing before we tighten down the thrust main cap. And the reason we do that is because the thrust bearing controls the fore and aft movement of the crank, and it does that by having two halves of a bearing that have flat faces on the front and the back of this main cap. And so the main cap and the engine block need to be in a perfect parallel line together, otherwise part of the bearing will overhang in the front and the upper bearing would be over in the back. So with this mildly torqued on our first stage, I'm now going to use an aluminum drift and a hammer, and I'm going to drive the crank back and then drive the crank back forward, and that's going to line up this main cap perfectly parallel with the engine block. Now with the thrust bearing set, we'll take our angle torque wrench and we'll do the final torque sequence on the main cap bolts. We are changing this to a 3-bolt traditional camshaft and are deleting the variable valve timing as well as cylinder deactivation and active fuel management. So we'll get this installed, make sure the camshaft is timed correctly. Double check it one more time to make sure it's all lined up correctly. And then when we know it is, we'll pull the tensioner pin. Next, we'll take the oil pump. Get it keyed in, just like so. Sure we have the gears all centered and aligned. Okay, and then I always give the pump a few squirts of oil once it's installed. All right, it is a new day with a new tool. My regular piston ring compressors are actually too big and can't get small enough for the 5.3 LS bore. Most of the stuff that we build here is 4-inch bore or bigger. So I got a new adjustable tool and I'm gonna get to sliming these pistons. What's the ETA on it?
It hasn't even left the manufacturer yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
something custom, huh?
It's 7 pounds lighter than my current wheels, and I'm going to be able to put a 325 on it.
Nice. There we go. Mucho dinero.
Feels like that arcade game where you try and stop it right in the middle.
Yep. Very similar.
if I put too much on or never.
Too much lube is never.
All right, she is all back together. It's not the prettiest of engines because it is 175,000 miles and we're just doing a basic rebuild. Like I said, we took this engine 10 thou over, put new pistons in it, bearings, rings. We did a mild camshaft. We also deleted the displacement on demand, active fuel management system, along with we deleted the variable valve timing and are now running a traditional 3-bolt camshaft. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.